All right, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, everybody? This is Twin Flames Unite, and we are at it again. And if you don't know by now, I'm Kris.
And I'm Leasha.
What up? I know what y'all are thinking. 3 times in a row?
Oh, y'all on the road this week.
3 times in a row. Hey, we got to get this information out to help you become your greatest version. Okay? And part of helping you become your greatest version is shedding some light on some things that some people just don't want to talk about. Okay? And today we're going to be talking about some twin flame trauma bonding. And we're not talking about S&M. Okay? So yeah. So today we're going to be jumping into talking about a topic that, once again, most people don't want to talk about, which is trauma bonding. Okay? It's a sticky situation. So we're going to dive into it and just give you the nuts and bolts about it so that you can actually see whether or not this is something that's going on in your life. And if it is, then we can talk about some solutions of getting out of it and also some solutions as far as getting over it.
Right, exactly. But before we dive in, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome to our channel. We do ask that you subscribe, like, and share if you think this information might be helpful to someone that you might know. If you think that, hey, I know my friend, she might be in this situation, let me share this information with her. Yes. Or him, or whatever. Feel free to go ahead and share the video.
Because it could be a him.
It could be a him, it could be a her, it doesn't matter. Just go ahead and give us that thumbs up as you walk in that room. That does help the algorithm with YouTube. Just letting YouTube know that you do like the content that we are providing for you. Okay?
All right. So, yeah, let's get into it. Now, as we go through, like, once again, this is something that quite a few people are going through, but they just don't want to talk about. So for those who are here and you're watching on the live, and if you have any questions in regards to what we're about to go into, please drop it in the chat and we'll jump into those as they come about. But definitely keep in mind that we're trying to help break bonds here. Okay, especially the bonds that are not benefiting you. So
right, the unhealthy ones.
All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the slides. Because we always got slides for y'all.
Slides are good. Keeps it organized and we get to really stay on point. What's up, Charlotte, baby?
Oh, gosh, hold on.
Oh, you got the Matrix is glitching.
It is glitching bad. Okay,
Matrix is glitchy today.
Let's try that again in just a moment.
We're going to try it again.
Remove that one. Hopefully this doesn't do it again next time. Let's try this.
Okay, hopefully we'll be on point this
time.
All
right, awesome. There we go. All right. So, trauma bonding. All right. What is it?
Let's get into it. We're going to talk about this trauma bonding. And if you recognize it, just say you recognize it. If you don't, great. And that means that it's not affecting you. Maybe once upon a time it did, right? Either way, we're going to dive into it.
All right. So let's jump into it, babe.
All right.
So what we got going on first?
How to recognize a trauma bond relationship or relationships. Okay.
Now, are these just tied to like romantic relationships?
Well, it leads into romantic relationships. That's where it ends up most of the time, but it generally doesn't begin there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. So just know this is not just tied to boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wives type thing. This can expand beyond that.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to get into that also. I touched on it right here. So what is a trauma bond relationship, right? So a trauma bond relationship is a connection between an abusive person and an individual that they abuse. So you see, it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It typically occurs when the abused person begins to develop sympathy or affection for the abuser, kind of like the Stockholm syndrome type of relationship, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this bond can develop over days, weeks, or months, all right? The key point here is this emotional attachment, because that's what it is. It's an emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
It develops out of repeated cycles, all right? Repeated cycles of abuse, devaluation, and it's kept there with positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So you get trapped in the cycle because of positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
This is what makes this type of relationship hard to get out of, because it's like whenever, and it's not necessarily a relationship where you're getting beat over the head with a baseball bat every day. Not that type is a little bit easier for you to realize. I'm gonna die if I stay.
Yeah.
This type of relationship is more. It could be a little bit of physical, but not often.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more on the emotional side of it.
Yep.
Emotional abuse.
It's cloaked
Mm-hmm.
to where things like it's bad, but psychologically you tell yourself it's not that bad.
Right. Because
Okay.
you get a little candy here and there. That's the
Yeah.
positive reinforcement. Even though you're being devalued, you're dying on the inside, but every now and again you get a treat.
Yeah. And just to give you a quick little example of this, let's just say you're with a partner and they tell you, "Oh my gosh, you look fat. Why don't you go to the gym and do something and get that weight off?" And and you feel like, okay, I mean, I do need to lose some pounds, and then you go to the gym and you work out a little bit, and then here they come and they buy you like some new clothes, or they take you out to eat or something like that, like congratulating you on doing the behavior that downplayed you.
Right. Or they might do something like, why don't you go and do something? Look, your friend, you got your friend Tiffany looking better than you. Like, why don't you go get on her level? Things like that really plays with your psyche.
Yes.
It's a kind of like a relationship that keeps you in a cycle, and that cycle, 1 minute you feeling up, the next minute you feeling down. 1 minute you feeling up, and the next minute you feeling down. And it just continues that way. Most healthy relationship, they progress.
Yes.
You might have a little, ooh, I slipped, but hey, it's kind of like in the stock market, right? When you have the ones that you want to invest in is the one that's
bullish.
the one that has a steady rise.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might go straight for a little bit, but it's still up on the rise.
It never dipped down below your lowest point.
A certain threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So, but these relationships is like boop, back up. Just like that. You don't know when it's up and down, right?
It's like Bitcoin. You don't know when it's going to hit the high. You don't know when it's going to hit the low. Just you going up and down.
It's like being in a relationship with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Facts.
All right.
That's real facts.
So this cycle creates what's called cognitive dissonance. Okay, this is cognitive dissonance is a direct manifestation of being in that cycle.
Yep.
All right. So for the cognitive dissonance, this is a state of having, like we was just talking, inconsistent thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no consistency, beliefs, attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change.
Yep.
So it's very wishy-washy, flip-floppy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when to kick the door in.
Nah. You don't know if they're happy. You don't know if they're sad. You don't know which one. And the reason being is that what happens in these situations is that at first, for the individual who is the abusee, you have the abuser and you have the abusee. The abusee may see it as odd, but they're like, but I really want to be with this person, or I really want to be around this individual, because sometimes it can be your parents.
Right.
Okay. And then you're like, okay, well, let me just adjust myself so that I can please them and still be around them.
We're going to get into that also. We're going to get into the signs so you can see how to recognize. Now, if any one of you, if you've ever, because I know this sometimes, if you're in this type of setting, you really don't want to talk about it because we're going to get into one of those signs in here. But if you maybe know someone, or if you've experienced this type of trauma bonding in the past, go ahead and drop something in the chat and let us know your experience. We're going to quickly go over the signs. So we have 8 signs, okay? And these are just really the most popular ones, right? Signs of trauma bonded relationship. What that really truly looks like. All right. And we have the 8 right here. We're going to get into them individually.
Yeah, but we're just going to shoot them off real quickly just so you can have an idea of what we're about to go into, and then we're going to go deeper into it. So the first one is the justification. 2, we're talking about future faking. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Keep having the same fights over and over again. Mystical magical thinking. Okay. And then we have the fear of leaving, even if they realize it's not a healthy relationship. Then you're a one-stop shop for the narcissistic. Then there's 7 hiding. 7 is hiding your feelings and needs that you don't feel. And then actually, no, let me stop. Let me read that again. Hiding your feelings and needs you don't feel. You can share your needs or things of that nature. We're going to get into it. And then we have the rationalization of the relationship, like actually justifying what's going on. All right. So what's the first one here?
So the first one that you'll notice, it's justification. All right. So all this means is that you're making excuses for them pretty much.
Yep.
Why do somebody might come up to you and be like, damn, why do he talk to you like that? Like, why does he constantly embarrass you like that? What's the problem? And then you probably going to be like, oh, he don't mean it. It's not his fault. He had a rough childhood. And all these things, like we've mentioned before, this is a manifestation of the cognitive dissonance. All right. This kind of justification starts in childhood, like we talked about earlier, and it manifests into your adult life. So maybe you grew up with a parent that was maybe verbally, emotionally abusive. Okay. And you just learn these techniques, because you love that person. And so what happens when you're in, when your parents are verbally abusive or emotionally abusive, and then that's the same parent that they clothe you, they feed you, they keep a roof over your head. So it's like this type of thing, it becomes familiar to you. And we always want to gravitate to what's familiar. So this is why a lot of the times, you end up in these type of relationships in your adulthood, because it's what you're used to.
Hey, we're just being real here. We're just bringing some things to light. Hopefully, once again, if this is something that you're going through or something that you have gone through, but you're still not sure exactly how to navigate these waters, we are definitely here to help you out with this. And then we also recommend that you reach out to some type of professional help in a situation to see if there's anything that can be done to help you in furthering your healing. Okay.
And so we do have some solutions once we get through what it looks like. So the future faking is the next one. So you'll find in this relationship that, the thing that holds you together is hope.
Gotta keep hope alive.
That hope factor is there, right? So this person might be telling you, oh, we're going to get married, we're going to buy a house, and they make all kinds of rosy promises. And, you might have been with them for maybe 3-4 years, and none of these promises is coming to pass. It's just a fake and future. And then you find yourself now telling your friends and family about this fake and future. And you might even talk as if you're actually living, that fantasy that you have in your head. And this is the one that keeps the loop, right? The future faking.
Yeah. So this is just one of the signs to let you know that you are in what's considered a trauma bonding type of relationship. And once again, these are not just tied to boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wives. This can be co-workers, because hell, you could actually be working for a job and like, oh yeah, we're going to give you this raise, we're going to give you that promotion and things of that nature. Yeah, just hold tight. It's coming.
And it never comes.
Or you get that raise and it's 25 cents. But anyway,
yeah.
But just know that these are just some signs, just some things to be aware of, so that we can avoid unnecessary pain. Now, this one?
Oh. Yeah. So the next one is you guys keep having the same fight. Okay. Now in relationships, of course, you're gonna have disagreements. You know, you're not gonna agree and see eye to eye on everything. All right. If you do, then somebody ain't keeping it real. Right? So you're not going to agree on everything. But in this scenario, you have the same fight over and over and over again. It might be every Thanksgiving. You talk about your mama and the cooking, whatever it is.
Right.
But it's redundant. And it never ends with a solution. That is key. It's wrong with having a disagreement. But when it never has a solution and it keeps looping, this is when it becomes toxic.
Yes.
All right? It doesn't matter. It could be maybe he cheated on you, or he thought that you cheated on him, or whatever it is. It's a cycle, and it's an argument that you have over and over and over again.
Yep.
They're not letting it go.
Yeah.
All right?
So you have to be aware of these things. Please, please, please be aware of these things, okay? Now, the next one, which is, this one's kind of interesting, okay? This is where your mind is playing tricks on you, okay? This is where you have this mystical, magical thinking about the relationship, okay? This is where they are not able to give logical reasons as to why they stay like, they say things like, it's just something about them, okay? Like you come up with these magical, non-logical reasons as to why to stay in a relationship where it's not serving your greatest and highest good, okay? And you could just say, like, for example, one of these promises that the individual is giving you, saying like, oh, you know, I want to marry you. You're the only one for me. Yes, we are going to get married. And then you're going around and you're telling everybody, oh, I have a fiance. They're like, oh, where's the ring? Oh, you know, the ring's coming, but, you know, he already proposed and everything. You know, we already picked the date out and stuff like that. Right. You know, that's one of these magical things where we're pretty much setting ourselves up for a huge loss.
Yeah, because the reason why this happens is because, again, there is no logical reason, you know, why you're staying in a relationship. So you have to make these things up, you know, even if it's just, oh, it's just something about them. I don't know what it is. I just really like them. They're different. I've never met anybody like them before. And it's, you know, we just click. But not a logical reason to explain, you know, these abusive patterns.
Right. So, yeah. So let's get into it. And the next one is the fear of leaving.
Yes, the fear. This is a big one. And this one is another one that really keeps you in the loop. You know, the fear of leaving, you know, even if you realize the relationship is not healthy, you know. And for a lot of empaths, they tend to do a lot of self-blame. Like they blame themselves, you know, like maybe I'm the problem.Maybe something is wrong with me. And what if I leave and I'm not supposed to, you know?
Yep.
So, and also people have a natural fear of the unknown.
Facts. Yeah.
So you don't want to leave because you don't know, you might have a fear of being alone.
Yeah. And, you know, with this one, you know, you have so many situations that's going on that could cause you to not want to leave or be afraid to leave, even when you recognize that the relationship is unhealthy. For one, if you have children together, you're already thinking about how is this going to affect our child.
Yeah.
You know, I had this dream of having this white picket fence and husband and wife and the kid and the dog and all of this stuff, 2-car garage, you know. But when you have other people that's involved, you know, it makes it a little bit a scary thought.
It does. But then you always have to go back to what are you showing those children? Like at some point, you do have to break that cycle of trauma. So maybe your parents passed it on to you. And so now what you're doing is passing it on to the children.
Right.
So at some point in time, the cycle has to stop.
Yep. And the buck stops with us.
Yeah.
You know, it stops with you. It can stop right now. You just have to take that power. We're going to give you some tips on how to actually break out of this cycle, because this one is a doozy. This is one of those it's like one of those slow drinks that pop up on you, like some Patron or something. You know, you sipping the Patron, and you know it after a while it just hits you like, oh shit, I'm drunk as hell. But you're like, oh damn, I'm in an abusive relationship. What the
right, because it's something that you have to really you have to be aware, because especially if you grew up in a environment like this, after a while you think it's normal. You're like, oh, this is normal. You know, people fight all the time, you know, about the same thing. Like you really think that these things are, you know, are healthy, and they're really not.
They're really not. They're really not. Now this next one is gosh, y'all, the only reason we can really talk to this is that because we lived through it. But you know, this is one thing that I don't think we really have gone into, but we wanted to shed some light on it, because you know, some things come up and we think it's all gone, but then things come up. Okay, and you have to deal with those things. And this is something that you definitely want to be aware of, so that you can really do your best to live your best life. Okay. Now, when it comes to being in a trauma bonding relationship, you'll find yourself being a one-stop shop for your narcissistic partner. Okay. That means that you're their chef, you're their cheerleader, you're their shrink, you're their best friend. And the other thing that really comes with this as well is that you can actually end up gosh, what's the thing? You can actually end up into a situation where, because they want you to be their friend and nobody else's friend, then you know you can actually end up in a situation where they don't want you to be with other individuals, and sometimes not even with your own family members.
Right, and this is where when you start being everything to one person, and there's nothing wrong with loving your partner. It's a beautiful thing to love your partner, right? But you have to look at the intention behind these things. When you're in this type of relationship, because you feel so devalued, you know, from all of the emotional abuse and maybe sometimes physical abuse, you feel like you have to go over and beyond, right? To be this super person so that they can see you. They can finally see that, hey, I have value. Hey, look what I can do. I can cook. I can do your hair. I can be a shrink. Look what I can do. Look, it's like a child constantly asking for attention. Look what I can do. But this type of person would never see your value. They will never see your full value.
The only thing they see you is another cog in the wheel.
Right.
And they'll replace you as soon as possible. But here's the other thing that comes as a result of being in this traumatic trauma bond is that you end up hiding your feelings.
Yes.
Okay? You end up hiding your feelings because you feel like sharing your feelings is either going to make them upset or hurt them in some type of way, or they may actually get upset with you and they actually come after you. So this is one of the side effects of being in a trauma bonded relationship.
Yes, and you feel like you're walking on eggshells, pretty much. You know, you don't want to do anything to upset them. And then this is a way for you to really keep the relationship afloat, you know, to make it seem like everything is okay. So you just learn to bury your feelings Because they probably might tell you, well, what you complaining about? It's not even that serious. So every time you try to talk to them, oh, what are you complaining about? You always complaining. It's not even that serious. And then they'll probably try to tell you, I'm the one in the relationship with the bad back. Or I'm the one that gotta go to the doctor and do this. What you got going on? So your feelings, and what you value and what you treasure doesn't matter.
No.
How you feel doesn't matter. Your emotions doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter if you're having a bad day, because their day is worse than yours, and you need to help them through their day. Okay.
So this is the manifestation. These are one of the signs.
Yeah. These are just one of the signs of being in a trauma bonded relationship. Now here's the next one. What's the next one, sweetheart?
This one is rationalizing. That's spelled wrong. Relationship. It's okay. Rationalizing the relationship with other people. Okay. Now it says here they're aware it's not good, but they're caught in a cycle of defending it to themselves. So this is when you start lying to yourself. All right. So you tell yourself a story so many times that now you start believing the story. All right. And then rationalizing the relationship with other people.
Yep.
Like, going back to the justification.
Yeah.
Trying to convince someone why this makes sense.
Yeah. And so you just, once again, you're putting yourself in a vicious cycle. And one of the things that we want to encourage as many people as possible, if they're up for it, which is exiting the loop, exiting the cycles. Okay. You know that you're in a bad situation, but instead of exiting out of that bad situation, you're justifying it to everybody else why you're in this bad situation, why everything is so rosy peach, just candies and rainbows. But inside, you're dying a little bit each time you do that. Because the slippery slope is that you can get to a point where you forget who you are.
Right. Now we're going to get into how to break the cycle, because this is a vicious cycle.
Yes. How to break the cycle. How many of y'all want to break the cycle and get out of these narcissistic relationships?
Yes, you got to you break it. You have to.
All right. So what's the next one, Bet?
The brain wants what is familiar. Okay, so people who experience abuse in childhood often feel drawn to similar relationships in adulthood, like we talked about. Okay, since they already recognize the highs and lows of the cycle, right? So they already know what it's like. It's familiar. That's what they're gonna look for. So you're easily drawn to it.
Yep. So what does that mean? Like as first, because we're just talking about how do you break the cycle, and now y'all bringing up, well, the brain wants what's familiar. Then you have to recognize that you're part of the reason that you are in this relationship is that because subconsciously something happened in your past that you became accustomed to. And so now, because you've come accustomed to it and you haven't gone through and pulled that document up and changed the program so that it looks for something else, so it's going to look for what's already programmed in your brain.
Right. So the first step is coming into the awareness. That's going to be the first step, and that's the most difficult step.
Yes.
Is to really realizing that this is toxic. I am in a toxic setting, and I really do need to get out.
Yep.
Easier said than done. Trust me, especially if this is something that you've been seeing all your life, you don't think that it's anything wrong with it. All right? So first thing you got to do is know what you are dealing with, or should I say who you're dealing with. All right? So recognize the existence of the bond. Like we said, you have to know that there is a bond and it's a toxic bond. Okay? Next thing that you want to do is keep a journal. All right? Keep a detailed journal of repeating patterns. All right? Pay attention when you're seeing that if you're having a fight, this person is not trying to come up with a solution, but he keeps or she keeps going over the same thing over and over again, and we never have a solution. Write these patterns down. Pay close attention to it. Dissect it. All right? That's going to be one of your key elements in recognizing this. You have to journal. All right? The next one is consider the relationship from another perspective. Now, this is actually how I work with my my daughter, because sometimes she has a issue with recognizing her own situation. So what I do is I tell her to imagine that it's someone else that was doing the things that she was doing. And so she's actually able to look at it and decipher, because there is a form of detachment that's created from putting your situation in another perspective. Right? So you don't feel so guilty, like, oh, and start judging yourself automatically. So try that. Try looking at your situation from another person's perspective.
Yes, and that's where the journaling comes in, because you can go through on your journal and write down things and then come back the next day and read it as if it's a novel. When you read in that story, you be like, you know what? I tell that girl to get the hell on up out of there. Like, okay, you know what you need to do.
Exactly. Or just imagine, like, if you have a daughter, imagine it's your daughter that's in that situation. What advice would you give to her? Right? Just flip the script. What's up, Solange? What's up, Max? I see you guys just joining in. Thank you for being here.
Yes. Put a like on the video.
Really appreciate that. Yeah, y'all just go ahead and put that beautiful like on the video for us. We do appreciate that.
All right, and we're right towards the end, so we're gonna wrap things up in just a moment. But yeah, so in that consideration, being able to look at things from a different perspective will definitely help out in breaking this cycle, so that you can recognize it. Because if you see somebody on the street and they're in an abusive relationship, you'll tell them to get the hell on.
Right.
All right. Now the next thing, as far as helping you to break this cycle, is to talk with your loved ones. Okay, talk with a professional. All right, talk to somebody who's gone through this and came out on the other end not smelling like smoke.
Right.
Okay, and this is the point where if you're in that narcissistic relationship and they've gone to the point of controlling, to where you're not talking to your original friends, you're not even talking to your own family members because they're just so controlling, this is when you have to reach out to those loved ones, to those friends, and let them know, hey, I'm in this situation and I'm trying to figure out the best way to get out of this without the least amount of harm. Okay?
And the next one is avoid self-blame. So avoid blaming yourself. This is not your fault. That's the biggest one, is that we blame ourselves so much, And even if you did miss the red flags, hey, at least you're seeing them now, right? So avoid blaming yourself, because blaming yourself can keep you in the cycle. Saying this is all my fault, this is all my fault, keeps you there, okay? And also, once you've come to this realization and you've confirmed that, yeah, this is a trauma bond relationship, cut off all contact with that person. You would have to, because they'll find some way to loop you back in and get you stuck again. So you have to cut them off. Once you cut them off, then you can go get some professional help.
Yes.
To help you to really heal.
Yeah. So that's the main thing. Like, even though this is a complex situation and it can get very sticky very quick, but the solution to getting out of it is actually pretty simple. It's really just being aware of yourself, being aware of where you are, and recognizing your best exit strategy.
Now, Solange said something really key here. She said, my issue is he really initiates sex, and he says that's just how he is. Well, my beautiful Solange, it's a few things here at play. Number one is, what is, like, how old is he, right? Because it could be, hey, some hormones imbalances could be going on. What is his diet like, right? What type of what is he eating and stuff like that, like stress levels. It's a lot that could be at play when someone has a low libido, right? If he's telling the truth. I'm not saying that he is. But if this is true, then it could be a series of things why that's the case.
Yeah.
So, when someone loves you and you bring something to their attention, usually they'll try to work with you, like try to meet in the middle. So if this is an issue in your relationship, sit down, talk about it. Hey, say, I know you have a low libido and whatnot. For me, I would probably like more engagement. And so let's see what we can do to see if there's something, some underlying issue as to why that is.
Right.
I know sometimes if a man has high blood pressure, that could affect that also. So it's a number of things to take into consideration.
Right. Yep.
Okay, number of things.
Yeah, and especially I think you mentioned here that he's a roofer, and once again they can go into, if you're a roofer, and depending on where you're roofing at, especially if you're in the South or if you're somewhere where the sun is shining a lot, it is very hot on top of those roofs. And by the time you get home, you don't want to do nothing else. So you have to take a couple of things into consideration. What is the diet like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, does he have high blood pressure? Because high blood pressure will kill libido. Secondly, what is his view about himself? Okay. Because if he doesn't have a great view of himself, then he may not feel worthy enough to get your prize.
So yeah, it's a number of things that could be going on.
Yes.
The best thing to do, Solange, is to sit down, talk it out, and really try to get to the root of what is why that's happening. It could be a simple malnutrition issue. Because as we get older, our bodies require more of certain substances,
right,
to keep those hormones in balance. To keep us going, to keep that drive going. Also, you could look at your look at the relationship and see where it's at. Because sometimes in a relationship, depending on how long you've been together, certain things start dwindling. Right, like that passion could start dwindling. So you have to check in on that passion also to make sure that that furnace is still going.
Yep.
Because it happens. I mean, it's life, right?
Facts. Facts.
You might just have to just wake up in the morning and just do something crazy. I don't know. buy some different pajamas. Do something different. See, try different things. Do the talk. And check the diet, see what's going on. Then, just try a few things. Because I guess, I was listening to Marcia Peer and another young lady, and they were talking about their relationship, right? Marcia Peer, she's been married for how long? She's been 20-some years. And the other lady been married for 18 years. And the other lady that was married for 18 years, she mentioned something that I thought was pretty interesting. She said that, a marriage is just like a business. So she said, oftentimes people think they get married, the first 2 years, everything is gravy. And then after, they don't necessarily work on the marriage like they would invest and continue to work on a business.
Right.
But she was saying that, a marriage is something that you need to actually continuously work on it. And she said, because they ran a business, they had to actually schedule their date nights, where they would get busy in the bedroom. They had to schedule those. So she said during the week she wasn't in the mood because she was all business. How she didn't know how to switch off like that.
Right.
And she realized that they'll go for months and nothing happens. So she said, well, we got to fix this.
Can't let this keep going
on. So what they did was they said, okay, weekdays we're going to do business, and weekends this is when it's for us. And so they had to come up with some type of thing to fix that, because she said it was just taken off. So she said that it's funny how people work on their business, right? And they they invest if something is not working, they tweak it or whatnot. But when it comes to the relationship, she said that people don't have the same energy. But she said if you take the same energy that you have for running a business to your relationship, it'll be pretty successful throughout the years. Yeah. And it's just something you have to just keep to, work on.
Yeah. And just understanding you're in it for the long haul. If, at least that's the main goal. You know, most people want to get one person and stick with that one person for the rest of their life, and they want to find somebody who is the most in alignment with that goal. All right.
Solange sound like she in the middle of the heat. She said, "I do mornings, but initiate. He really does. Yeah. So if he's I mean, how is he older? Because if he's older, that might be the case. And if he's younger in his 30s or something like that, then you know it's something else is going on.
Yeah, and also it could be stressed out, because if a man is stressed out, you know, most of the times if he's stressed out, sex is actually the last thing on the guy's mind when he's really stressed out.
Solange, you funny. Solange said, "I quit watching porn now, so hope he follows suit." Well, hey, you know what? She said he's a good man. Oh, 36? Uh-uh.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so yeah, we got to figure this out, Solange. So yeah, there is something that's bubbling under there. That's not normal. 36-year-old supposed to be busy, really busy. So yeah, it's something. Talk about the health and see what's going on with the vitamins and nutrition and stuff like that. And this is just a thing that you're gonna have a grown up conversation and really dig deep. And see what's going on, because that's young. 36 is super young. Yeah. Because different foods, you know, the environment can have a lot to do with it too, where he's working. It's a lot to it. So you just have to really talk about it and see where it's coming from. And you know what? For a man, this might be a touchy subject. So you want to handle this with some kid gloves.
And in private.
Make sure there's nobody else around at all. Right? And I would have this conversation when you're both very, very, very relaxed, at your most relaxed state. And just try to see, you know, what's happening and come from a place of high concern and no judgment at all, just concern, the energy of concern, and willing and ready to help to fix it together as a team.
Right.
One team, one dream.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Other than that, are we missing anything?
Nah, I think that's it. We did the presentation with the you know, just recognizing these trauma bonds and these relationships. And you know, if you think that you've recognized that you might be in a trauma bond relationship, if your relationship feels like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, then more than likely it's probably a trauma bond relationship, and those are very toxic. And if you do get out, or when you do get out, if you're in one, you must heal. You must heal before you move on to your next experience. As far as a relationship, it's important that you heal, because what you're going to do, you're just going to take those traits into the next relationship. Solange said he does smoke weed. Ooh, okay, that might be a situation now. What type of he got to check to see what type, what kind, you know, is it natural, is it organic? Because those things, they did a study recently on people who did a lot of weed, you know, smoking. Back, I want to think it's in the 2000s, maybe in early 2000s. For those people who did a lot of that, they said now they're showing up with very low libido. So I don't know. You could look a little bit more into it, but it all depends on where he gets his stuff from.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
But last but not least, we do want to remind you all of the Twin Flame Union webinar that we are doing on this coming weekend on the 12th. We would definitely love to see you all in the building. Once again, you can find the link to this event in our Instagram. where you can click on the link in the bio and you can register for free. Us and a few other twin flame couples will be on that webinar giving you the details on how they came into union and how they make it work. All right. So we would definitely love to see you all in the building. And for those who attend this event, actually will have an opportunity to get a deeply discounted rate on a session with us. So definitely go ahead. There's so many benefits to this. For one, the event is free. And then you'll be able to talk with some individuals who have already gone through what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We do have some other webinars scheduled for this Friday. We got a lot of stuff that's going on right now, y'all. So just check out the website. Go ahead and book your sessions. Become a royal twin flame. Because once again, we are going to have our group meditation on the summer solstice, which is on the 29th. So you want to make sure that you are in the building for that as well. Yes. Alexa said, is the webinar recorded? This particular one, are we going to record this one? This is not one that we're over. This one is pretty much being ran by Lex, Lex Reader. She invited us. So more likely we will have a copy of it, and we'll see how we will go about sharing that information. But as far as we know, this is a Zoom meeting that is going to be held and hosted by Lex, and we'll go from there. So this is not our event. We've just been invited to speak on it. And we invited you. Yes, to come and see us and some other twin flames that have done the same thing that we've done. All right. And one of them we know pretty well. So it's pretty cool that they actually are going to be on there as well. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. All right. Other than that, we love y'all. We thank y'all for tuning in on this late notice live. We just saw this information like, man, we got to talk about this. Let's talk about this. All right. Awesome. So without further ado, we love y'all so much. And peace out. Just hold on. It's coming up. It's coming up. Hold on.